welcome to the news back then. Back when? Back then. Back when? Around about the 1880s, when movement was being made towards the Federation of Australia. With more details is Farmer Jack Michelson with the Federation Report. Jack?
Thanks, Manita. Good day. Well, about this time, about 75% of the Australian population are actually born in Australia. You have the formation of this association called the Australian Natives Association, made by men who were either born in Australia or had lived in one of the colonies for at least 20 years. The artwork, the poetry, even the furniture is getting increasingly influenced by the Australian landscape, the Australian fauna and the Australian flora. That's animals and plants for those playing at home. Okay, so in 1899, Henry Parkes, the Premier of New South Wales, gives us a speech up at the top of New South Wales at a place called Tenterfield, all in support of the Federation. He's so happy with this speech, he decides to get a plane. Not a plane, because they weren't invented yet. He decides to get a Batmobile. No, they weren't invented yet either. He gets a train. I don't have one of those, just pretend it's a train. Down to Sydney a few days later to give the same speech. In fact, he goes down there at a speed of 50 kilometres an hour in a steam train. That's a speed that wasn't even matched by the diesel trains that come along later in the next century. He must have been keen to give that speech. In fact, he loves it so much that he gives the same speech not once, not twice, but 15 times in the 6 months leading from the talk in Tenterfield back to the convention in Melbourne that happened 6 months later. Okay, so it's a big meeting. They give the speech. Then, in 91, they have another meeting in Sydney. They draft a constitution. 2 years later, they have, yes, you guessed it, another meeting in 1893 at a place called Corowa, where this guy, Dr. John Quick, proposes that the people of the colonies should get together and come up with their own representatives for each colony, who then draft a constitution, bringing that constitution back to the people to vote for. Okay, so then, 2 years later, another meeting. These guys must have either really liked each other, really liked talking, or just really liked the cakes that they've been eating at all these conferences. Anyway, they have a meeting in 95, the Corowa proposal gets accepted. Then, in 97, another meeting, this time in Adelaide. And in Adelaide, they draft the Constitution. It's not good enough though. They have to come back meeting again in September with 286 changes to that Constitution. Then, in 98, another meeting, a convention to draft the Constitution. And in June of that year, a referendum. And in that referendum, 3 states vote for the Constitution. New South Wales don't have the numbers. So they have to go back, again, have another meeting. This time, a secret conference, where they make changes to please New South Wales. New South Wales gets the numbers, South Australia has joined, Victoria has joined, Tasmania has joined, and Queensland joins later in September. I don't know what took them so long. Maybe they were taking all their time bending those bananas. Anyway, in 1900, the Australian Constitution Act gets passed through to British Parliament, and later on, Western Australia joins, and the nation of Australia is born. Yay! About time, Western Australia.
Thank you, Farmer Jack Michelson, for that rather informative report. And that's all we have this evening for the news back then. I'm Juanita Wadsworth. Good night.